Хочеш отримати такий м'яч із моїм автографом? Заходь на сайт і розкажи про свою перемогу та отримай подарунок від мене та новопост. Навіть проживай. Орієнтуємось на донорів з Америки, з Європи. Наприклад, турніри, які я граю, ми з ними зв'язуємось і розповідаємо, що наш фонд.
I don't know what you want to call this.
That was supposed to be like a period, like City Girls period.
People baby like I ain't fighting with no random period.
Like
Coco Gauff's nuclear meltdown. Don't touch my family. The shocking Svitolina clash that's tearing tennis apart. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Chatterbox, the only channel that brings you the real tea, the unfiltered drama, and the behind-the-scenes chaos that the mainstream sports media is too scared to touch. If you thought professional tennis was all about graceful baseline rallies, perfectly pressed whites, and polite handshakes at the net, then honey, you are in for the rudest awakening of your life. What we're about to expose today is so explosive, so controversial, and so downright messy that it has the entire tennis world picking sides like we're in some kind of civil war. We're talking about a full-scale detonation involving America's sweetheart Coco Gauff and Ukrainian warrior Elina Svitolina. And trust me when I say this scandal has legs that could run all the way to Wimbledon and back. Forget everything you think you know about these two competitors because the gloves are off, the claws are out, and what went down at the Australian Open has turned into the ugliest, most personal feud we've seen in women's tennis in years. We're talking accusations of family insults, whispers of discrimination, alleged secret recordings, emergency press conferences, and a fan war so vicious that social media platforms are practically melting under the heat. Coco Gauff, the young phenom who's usually the picture of composure and class, absolutely lost it. And when I say lost it, I mean she went supernova. Her message to Svitolina? Don't touch my family. And those 4 words have ignited a firestorm that refuses to die down. So what really happened at that net after their quarterfinal clash? Was there actually a vile, personal attack on Gauff's loved ones? Is there really audio evidence that could end Svitolina's career as we know it? And why are people demanding the WTA launch a full-blown investigation into what's being called one of the most shocking breaches of sportsmanship in recent memory? Buckle up, hit that like button right now, and make sure you're subscribed to Chatterbox because we are about to take you on a wild ride through the scandal that has everyone from Melbourne to Miami absolutely losing their minds. Let's get into it. To understand how we got to this point of absolute chaos, we need to rewind the clock just a little bit and set the scene properly. The Australian Open quarterfinals were already shaping up to be a pressure cooker of epic proportions. You had Coco Gauff, the reigning US Open champion, trying desperately to defend her ranking points and prove to the world that her Grand Slam victory wasn't just a one-off fluke. On the other side of the net stood Elina Svitolina, a battle-hardened veteran who's been through wars both on and off the court, a mother, a fighter, and someone who has absolutely nothing to lose and everything to prove. The stage was set for an intense battle, and everyone expected fireworks on the scoreboard. What we got instead was a total demolition. Svitolina came out swinging like a woman possessed, playing some of the most aggressive, fearless tennis we've seen from her in years. She was hitting winners from impossible angles, returning serves like they were beach balls, and Gauff, to put it bluntly, looked completely lost out there. The match lasted a brutal 59 minutes. Not even a full hour. It was a beatdown of the highest order, and you could see the frustration building in Coco with every unforced error, every missed first serve, every ball that sailed long or crashed into the net. We all saw that viral moment where Coco, clearly beside herself with anger and disappointment, tried to find a secluded spot to smash her racket in peace, only to realize that the TV cameras were following her every move like vultures circling a fresh kill. She later complained about the invasion of privacy, about not being allowed to express her emotions without the world watching and judging. At the time, we all thought that racket smash was the peak of her frustration. Oh, how wrong we were. That racket smash was nothing, absolutely nothing, compared to the volcanic eruption that was brewing just beneath the surface. Because when the match finally, mercifully ended, and the 2 players approached the net for the customary handshake, something went seriously wrong. If you go back and watch the footage, and believe me, millions of people have been watching it frame by frame like it's the Zapruder film, you can see it clear as day. The handshake was cold. Ice cold. There was zero warmth, Zero sportsmanship, just a quick, awkward touch of hands that lingered for a fraction of a second too long. Gauff and Svitolina exchanged a few words that we couldn't hear on the broadcast, but you could see from their body language that something was off. For Coco Gauff, whose entire support system revolves around her tight-knit family, this was the ultimate betrayal of sportsmanship. Her father, Corey, who has coached her since she was a little girl holding a racket that was almost as big as she was, and her mother, Candy, who has been her rock through every triumph and every setback, are constant fixtures in her player box. They're not just her parents. They're her foundation, her inspiration, her reason for fighting. We've seen Coco handle devastating losses with incredible grace and maturity. She embraced Elina Svitolina after falling short in previous Grand Slam battles. She's congratulated opponents who've beaten her soundly. She's always been the epitome of class and respect. So for her to come out swinging like this, for her to be this angry, this hurt, this determined to make this public, something truly horrible must have been said. This is not the behavior of someone looking for attention or trying to make excuses for a bad performance. This is the behavior of someone who has been genuinely wounded and is demanding justice. Now here's where this story takes a turn from dramatic to potentially career-ending for one of these players. We live in an age where nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, stays hidden for long. Every court has dozens of cameras. Every seat in the stadium has a fan with a smartphone capable of recording in crystal clear high definition. Courtside microphones pick up everything from the squeak of sneakers to the grunts of exertion to yes, the words exchanged between players. And Coco Gauff just dropped a bombshell that has Elina Svitolina's team scrambling in panic mode. Gauff claims she has receipts, and in today's world, receipts are everything. During her explosive press conference, Coco stated clearly and unambiguously that she has evidence to back up her accusations. She mentioned that her team might have captured audio of the exchange, or that close-up footage from fans sitting courtside could corroborate her version of events. "I know what I heard, and I know the cameras heard it too," she said, and those words landed like a bomb. This changes everything. This transforms the situation from a he-said-she-said dispute into something that could potentially be proven or disproven with cold, hard evidence. If there is audio or video of Elina Svitolina making derogatory, offensive comments about the Gauff family, we are looking at a public relations catastrophe of epic proportions. We're talking about potential fines, suspensions, sponsorship deals evaporating overnight, and a permanent stain on a legacy that Svitolina has worked her entire life to build. The internet, being the relentless investigative machine that it is, has already kicked into high gear. Amateur lip readers on Twitter, TikTok, and every tennis forum imaginable are currently analyzing every single frame of that net exchange like they're working for the FBI. Some are claiming they can clearly see Svitolina mouthing something aggressive and confrontational. Others are insisting that Gauff misheard or misinterpreted what was said in the heat of the moment. Slow-motion videos are being shared thousands of times, with red circles and arrows pointing to mouth movements and facial expressions. The conspiracy theories are flying. Some people think the WTA is already sitting on the audio and trying to decide how to handle it. Others believe that Gauff's team is holding the recording as leverage, waiting for the perfect moment to release it and let the chips fall where they may. What we do know for certain is that Coco Gauff is reportedly considering filing a formal complaint with the Women's Tennis Association. And if she goes through with that, you can bet your bottom dollar that any audio or video evidence will be front and center. The WTA has protocols for investigating allegations of misconduct, and if this complaint is filed, they will have no choice but to review every piece of available footage, listen to every microphone feed, and interview everyone who was within earshot of that exchange. The tennis world is holding its collective breath, waiting to see if that tape exists and if it will ever see the light of day. But Elina Svitolina is no shrinking violet, and her team is not about to let these accusations go unchallenged. You didn't think she was just going to roll over and accept being painted as the villain in this story, did you? Within 30 minutes, and I am talking barely enough time to towel off and change out of her match kit, Svitolina's camp fired back with a counteroffensive that was just as aggressive as Gauff's initial attack. They didn't issue some vague, carefully worded statement through a publicist. They didn't wait a day or two to let the dust settle. They called their own emergency press briefing and came out swinging. The accusations are flying from both sides. We're seeing claims of racism, claims of victimhood, claims of manipulation, and claims of character assassination. What should have been a routine post-match handshake has turned into a full-scale cultural and political battleground, and there seems to be no middle ground. You're either Team Coco or Team Elina, and the neutrals are being shouted down from all sides. This brings us to perhaps the most serious aspect of this entire scandal, the one that could have legal and professional ramifications that extend far beyond hurt feelings and social media arguments. The allegation of discrimination. A significant portion of the public, particularly those in Gauff's corner, are not just calling Svitolina's alleged comments rude or unsportsmanlike. They are labeling them as discriminatory, and that is a very different and far more serious accusation. The specific phrasing that Coco used, describing it as a longer statement targeting my family, has led to intense speculation about the nature of the insult. What exactly was said? Was it racially charged? Was it an attack on their background, their culture, their identity? Gauff has been careful not to reveal the exact words, and that has only fueled the speculation and the outrage. Some believe she's protecting herself legally, making sure that when the evidence does come out, she can't be accused of defamation if the audio doesn't match her claims. Others think she's waiting for the WTA to do the right thing and launch an investigation before she goes public with the full details. What we do know is that the WTA rulebook is crystal clear when it comes to conduct. There are strict rules against behavior that is contrary to the integrity of the game, and that absolutely includes harassment, discrimination, and personal attacks that go beyond the bounds of competitive spirit. If the investigation finds that Svitolina made comments that violate these rules, especially if those comments contained elements of racial, ethnic, or cultural discrimination, the consequences could be severe. We're talking about massive fines that could reach into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, suspensions that could keep her off the court for months, and a black mark on her record that would follow her for the rest of her career. Coco's mention of filing a formal complaint signals that she is not looking for a private apology or a quiet resolution. She wants accountability. She wants transparency. She wants the world to know what was said, and she wants consequences. And with the pressure mounting from fans, from the media, from sponsors who are watching this situation very carefully, the WTA cannot afford to stay silent much longer. They are going to have to address this head-on, and when they do, the findings of that investigation are going to send shockwaves through the entire sport. So where does this leave us? What happens next in this rapidly escalating drama that shows absolutely no signs of cooling down? Well, buckle up, because this feud is far from over. In fact, we're probably only in the first act of what promises to be a long, ugly, and incredibly public battle. The tennis calendar rolls on, and at some point, possibly sooner than either of them would like, Coco Gauff and Elina Svitolina are going to find themselves on opposite sides of the net again. And when that day comes, it won't be a tennis match. It will be a gladiator fight. Every glance across the net will be analyzed for signs of hostility. Every grunt will be dissected for hidden meaning. Every ball tossed in the other's direction will be scrutinized for intent. The tension will be so thick you could cut it with a knife, and the entire tennis world will be watching with popcorn in hand, waiting to see if round 2 delivers the fireworks that round 1 only hinted at. But before we get to that rematch, there's the small matter of the evidence. The audio, the tape, the smoking gun that could settle this entire debate once and for all. Right now, we are in a holding pattern, waiting to see if Gauff's team will release the recording they claim to have. If they do, if that audio clearly captures Svitolina making the offensive remarks that Gauff alleges, then this conversation is over. Svitolina will be finished in the court of public opinion, and the WTA will have no choice but to come down hard with sanctions. Her sponsors will run for the hills. Her legacy will be forever tarnished, and she will go down in history as the player who crossed the line and paid the ultimate price. But if the audio never materializes, if Gauff's team can't produce the evidence to back up these explosive claims, then the tables turn dramatically. Svitolina's team has already hinted that they are prepared to take legal action if these accusations continue without proof. Svitolina, on the other hand, is fighting for her legacy. She's a former top 5 player, a Grand Slam semifinalist multiple times, a mother who came back from childbirth to compete at the highest level. and someone who has become a symbol of Ukrainian resilience in the face of unimaginable hardship back home. If these allegations stick, if she is found guilty of making discriminatory or abusive comments, all of that goodwill evaporates. She becomes a cautionary tale, a player who let the pressure get to her and said something unforgivable. The stakes for her are existential. And what about the fans? Well, the fan wars show no signs of slowing down. If anything, they're intensifying. Every new piece of information, every statement from either camp, every tweet from a journalist or a fellow player, just adds more fuel to the fire. The tennis community is more divided than it has been in years, maybe even decades. This isn't just about two players having a disagreement. This has become a proxy war for larger issues of race, privilege, respect, and the treatment of athletes in the public eye. It's messy, it's uncomfortable, and it's not going to be resolved with a simple apology or a handshake. What makes this even more complicated is the international dimension. Coco Gauff is American, a black woman representing a country with a long and painful history of racial discrimination and injustice. Elina Svitolina is Ukrainian, a white woman from a country that is currently fighting for its very survival against Russian aggression. Both of them carry the weight of their backgrounds, their cultures, and their identities onto the court with them. Any conflict between them is automatically going to be viewed through those lenses, fairly or unfairly, and that adds layers of complexity that go far beyond what was said at a net during a tennis match. The global tennis community is watching this with bated breath. Legends of the game are being asked to weigh in, and most of them are wisely staying neutral or offering bland statements about letting the process play out. But you can bet that behind closed doors, in locker rooms and training facilities around the world, players are talking about this nonstop. They're picking sides, they're sharing their own stories, and they're wondering if they would have the courage to speak up if something similar happened to them. Sponsors are also paying very close attention. Both Gauff and Svitolina have lucrative endorsement deals with major brands, and those brands are now in a very uncomfortable position. Do they stand by their athletes and risk alienating large segments of the public? Do they issue carefully worded statements of support that don't actually take a side? Do they quietly distance themselves and wait to see how this plays out before making any decisions? The business of tennis is just as important as the sport itself, and scandals like this can have million-dollar consequences. Looking at the bigger picture, this incident is also shining a spotlight on the mental health challenges that professional athletes face. The pressure to perform at the highest level, the constant scrutiny from media and fans, the weight of expectations from sponsors and national federations, the isolation of life on tour, all of these factors create an environment where tensions can boil over in unexpected and destructive ways. Some commentators are arguing that we need to have a broader conversation about how we support athletes emotionally and psychologically, how we create systems that allow them to compete fiercely while still maintaining respect and boundaries, and how we hold everyone accountable when those boundaries are crossed. Others are pointing out that this is also a moment to examine the double standards that exist in sports. Male tennis players have gotten into physical altercations, smashed rackets into smithereens, screamed at umpires until they were hoarse, and said far worse things to each other than anything alleged in this case. And it's often brushed off as passion or competitive fire. But when women show emotion, when they speak up about being disrespected, when they refuse to just smile and move on, they're often criticized as being too emotional, too sensitive, or too difficult. The gendered nature of how we respond to athlete behavior is undeniable, and this scandal is forcing people to confront that reality. As we wait for the next development in this saga, one thing is absolutely certain. The story of Coco Gauff versus Elina Svitolina is far from over. This is not going to be resolved with a single press conference or a carefully worded Instagram post. This is a seismic event that is going to reshape relationships, reputations, and possibly even the rules and culture of professional tennis. The reverberations from what happened in Melbourne are going to be felt for months, if not years, to come. Do you believe Coco Gauff? Do you think she's telling the absolute truth about Elina Svitolina making vicious, personal attacks on her family? Or do you think this is a case of emotions running high in the heat of a devastating loss, a misunderstanding that's been blown completely out of proportion by the media and the court of public opinion? Are you Team Coco, ready to stand beside her and demand justice and accountability? Or are you Team Elina, convinced that she's being unfairly vilified by a sore loser who can't handle defeat with grace? And here's the big question that everyone is debating. If you were in Coco Gauff's shoes, if you had that audio recording that could potentially end this debate and prove your case once and for all, would you release it? Would you put it out there for the world to hear, knowing that it could destroy another person's career and reputation? Or would you hold on to it, use it as leverage, and let the WTA investigation run its course? There are compelling arguments on both sides, and we want to know what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments section right now. Tell us who you believe. Tell us what you think should happen next. And tell us if you think the WTA is going to handle this the right way, or if they're going to sweep it under the rug and hope everyone forgets about it in a few weeks. We read every single comment. We appreciate every single perspective, and we love the fact that this community is so passionate and engaged with these stories. And listen, if you want us to keep, then you need to hit that like button right now. Seriously, smash that like button like your life depends on it, because that's how we know you want more coverage of this story. The algorithm rewards engagement, and your likes tell YouTube that this is the content people care about. But even more importantly, if you haven't already subscribed to Chatterbox, what are you even doing? We are the #1 source for unfiltered, no-holds-barred sports drama and celebrity tea. We don't sugarcoat, we don't play favorites, and we don't bow down to corporate interests or PR machines. We give you the real story, the full story, and the story that other channels are too scared to tell. So hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications so you never miss an upload, and become part of the Chatterbox family. We've got tons more explosive content coming your way, and you're not going to want to miss a single second of it. This has been Chatterbox, bringing you the scandal, the drama, and the truth that the sports world doesn't want you to know. We're signing off for now, but trust us, we're keeping our ears to the ground, our eyes on the sources, and our fingers on the pulse of this story. The moment anything breaks, the moment that tape surfaces, the moment the WTA makes their move, we will be here to break it down for you. Until then, stay loud, stay proud, and keep watching Chatterbox. Peace out.